Could a party once called Fringe topple both Labour and the Tories? For 100 years, the British political system has been dominated by the two major parties, the Conservatives, also known as the Tories, and Labour. Almost every election since 1922, one of those two parties has secured a majority in the House of Commons, granting them near infinite power, and the other party was relegated to opposition, although comforted by the fact that they would soon be back in government within just a few years. Every other party, however, had to be content with being crossbenchers, only making a splash once in a generation when a hung parliament arose, and the two major parties needed their support. However, the script is flipped. Reform UK has burst onto the scene, and until relatively recently, they were virtually unknown. They are loved by many and loathed by many. This is the controversial rise of Reform UK. Reform UK was originally known as the Brexit Party, created with the help of Nigel Farage in 2018 to advocate for a no-deal Brexit, to get Brexit done, and to provide Nigel Farage with a political platform independent of his former party, the United Kingdom Independence Party, also known as UKIP, following a string of high-profile controversies. Nigel Farage was elected to the European Parliament with UKIP in 1999, winning re-election every single time until the United Kingdom finally left the European Union in January 2020. For a long time, he was the figurehead of the Eurosceptic movement. A Eurosceptic is someone that does not support their nation's membership in the European Union. Coming back to the present, what is very intriguing is that Reform's rise has been relatively fast. Going back only a year to the 2024 election, they didn't have a leader. It was only after disaffected right-wingers hounded Nigel Farage to run that Reform UK actually had a leader. Nigel Farage had tried 7 times prior to win a seat in the UK House of Commons, failing all 7 times. Prior to Farage throwing his hat in the ring, Reform was consistently polling around 10%, but with a recognisable face behind them, their polling peaked at 24%, nearly a quarter of the vote, which was 9% ahead of the Conservatives, the then current party of government, and just 11% behind Labour, the eventual winners. Following a string of controversies, Reform UK finished with nearly 15% of the vote, but only 5 seats, with Farage as its leader. Reform UK was always going to rise. They just didn't know how fast and how meteoric their ascent would be. It wasn't long until Keir Starmer's honeymoon period ended, with Labour's massive lead in the polls disappearing thanks to Starmer's piss-poor response to the Southport protests. The Southport protests erupted in the British summer of 2024 following the stabbing of 3 young white girls at a Taylor Swift dance studio in the town of Southport, England by an African teenager. This was seen as the culmination of decades of unchecked mass migration and the past 15 years of unchecked illegal immigration into Britain, and the people were rightfully furious of both sides of politics, Conservative and Labour, for allowing this. And the people turned to a new player on the scene, somebody untainted by the failures of governments past. Their name was Reform UK. Keir Starmer, instead of cracking down on mass migration, migrant crime, and instituting mass deportations as the British public demanded, Starmer instead punished those demanding a tough response to the migrant crisis. Prisons already overcrowded were crowded up even more with political dissidents, and if that wasn't disgusting enough, the absolute dregs of society, child abusers, people who were in there for multiple counts of possession and distribution of child pornography, and people who were being convicted of child sexual abuse had their sentences reduced so as to free up space to house political dissidents. One of those dissidents ended up taking his own life. Peter Lynch was his name. He was a father and a grandfather. His blood will forever be on Keir Starmer's hands. The British public were rightfully furious. Reform UK were consistently polling around 20%. For the first time in a very long time, a party that seemed to genuinely represent the wills and desires of the British public, not unelected bureaucrats in London and Brussels, was making serious ground in the United Kingdom. In January 2025, following months of continued managed decline under Labour, which may as well have been a continuation of Conservative rule, Reform UK finally won their first opinion poll, tied at 25% with Labour on the 8th. 14 days later, on the 22nd, Reform UK finally won their first ever opinion poll at 26% and haven't lost a poll since mid-April, and have won the polls by 13 points twice. Reform UK, currently polling at 34%, is estimated to win up to nearly 450 seats. This would be the highest number of seats ever won by a party in British political history. Both sides of politics are clearly fed up with the Tory-Labour uniparty, and many people are turning to Reform as the only political solution to the decades of uniparty failures. Most of Reform's support has come from disaffected Tory voters, however polling for a new populist left party led by Jeremy Corbyn is equal in vote share with Labour at 15%, and Reform has a real opportunity to pick up disaffected Labour voters, blue-collar workers that have felt left behind since the reigns of Thatcher and Blair. Reform has a real opportunity to pick up seats across Labour's red wall that Boris Johnson penetrated in 2019. Reform has clearly seen this opportunity, announcing policies that would appeal to the left of politics. Reform has promised to nationalise the steel industry and Thames Water, as well as reinstating certain government benefit programs, increasing funding of the National Health Service, increasing public spending by £150 billion over 5 years, wealth redistribution, student debt forgiveness, and increasing taxes on online mega businesses. Economic nationalism, something supported by many on the nationalist right, contains some overlap with left-wing economics. Polls have shown that the vast majority of Reform voters support policies that would traditionally be associated with the Labour Party rather than the Conservative Party. and Nigel Farage himself appears to be cozying up to the trade unions, a voting bloc completely isolated from the Conservatives thanks to Margaret Thatcher, but aren't too keen on Labour either, because they feel forgotten from the years of Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, as well as the piss-poor leadership of Keir Starmer. Trade unionists vote for Labour reluctantly, but are yearning for a new political party that will adequately represent them and their values. Reform have a real opportunity to be that party. Many times when third parties are praised as the new way forward for politics, it is oftentimes just fluff. Time and time again they are overhyped and are not much more than a pipe dream. However, Reform are the real deal. They have a genuine shot at not just winning majority government, let alone minority government, having the biggest win in British political history. The recent UK local elections in May were considered a litmus test, the first real test for the party since the 2024 general election. And Reform had a fantastic night. They won 30% of the vote, more than any other party, and they won more council seats than any other party. Reform also had a 21% swing towards them in the seat of Runcorn and Helsby during their by-election, winning by just 6 votes after Labour beat them by 35% less than 10 months prior. Just imagine how far Reform will come in the next 4 years. Reform's story isn't just sunshine and rainbows. As I mentioned, a hypothetical Corbynist party is currently polling at 15% before their party has even been created. Is it out of the realm of questioning that the 2029 election will be a two-horse race between Reform and the Corbynites? Can Corbyn successfully pull disaffected Labour voters away from Reform and back to the left? Will Corbyn annex Labour's red wall? Or will Corbyn's new party be a boon for Reform, further splitting the left-wing vote into 4 camps: Labour, the Corbynites, the Liberal Democrats and the Greens? In polls with the hypothetical Corbynite party, Reform is leading by 17%. If Reform can avoid further controversy, which we will elaborate on soon, 500 seats is surely not out of the question. Reform, despite being very new to the political scene, is no stranger to controversy. In July 2025, James McMurdoch suspended himself from the party amid an investigation into £70,000 in COVID loans allegedly claimed for companies with no employees. This followed revelations of his 2007 conviction for assaulting his ex-girlfriend when he was a teenager, prompting fellow MP Lee Anderson to call for a by-election. McMurdoch now sits as an independent, leaving Reform with just 4 MPs and raising questions about their financial accountability promises. Reform has also announced controversial changes to their candidate selection process. The party has recently introduced what they call a common sense vetting system, loosening previous checks after complaints they were too strict. However, critics argued this could open the door for more controversies, especially after past candidates were dropped for inflammatory comments, including remarks by a candidate about asylum seekers that was considered derogatory. For a party aiming to project professionalism, this move has raised eyebrows. Reform UK has also faced criticism for their decision to appoint teenagers to major council roles. In Warwickshire, 18-year-old George Finch now leads the county council, while a 19-year-old oversees children's services in Leicestershire. Critics, including groups like Cope Not Hate, have questioned their inexperience, pointing to alleged social media posts praising controversial figures. Reform, however, has dismissed these concerns. However, criticism has not come just from the left, but the right as well. The Homeland Party is a party to the right of Reform that advocates for mass deportations and the remigration of non-whites that has criticised Reform for not going far enough. They accuse Reform of being weak on asylum seekers and deportations, employing a Muslim to run the party, increasing the presence of non-whites in the party, and for acting as a containment party rather than a party of true opposition. Of course, every political party will have their controversies, and especially when the establishment wishes to derail them. But the golden question is, can they clean up their act to win in 2029, or will these scandals derail them? So what's next for Reform? With parliamentary elections in Scotland and Wales next year, as well as more local council elections, Reform will be eager to make a huge statement. They have a real chance of winning the Senate, the Welsh Parliament, as well as finishing second to the Scottish Nationalist Party in the Scottish elections. Currently, per my predictions, Reform will not win any Scottish Commons seats in 2029, so they will desperately want to establish a base in Scotland. Reform is currently in the process of setting up party branches in Northern Ireland, and that could be huge in Northern Ireland if they were the only British party to run in Northern Ireland, as currently the Tories, Labour and Lib Dems do not. I truly believe that so many Northern Irish voters would vote for Reform and abandon Irish republicanism if Reform was the only party running in all 4 UK countries. A merger with the traditional unionist voice, a Northern Ireland party which Reform had an alliance with going into the 2024 election, will further their foothold in Northern Ireland. Reform also has a real chance at winning the London mayoral race in 2028. They are currently polling at 20%, and that is without any potential candidates given to the poll respondents. However, Reform is most likely to select Ant Middleton as their candidate, a huge celebrity not just in the United Kingdom but Australia as well. That celebrity factor plus a further 3 years of uniparty dissatisfaction means that Reform UK will win a race considered unthinkable just months prior. At the end of the day, if Reform can stick true to their values, give the working class a real voice, give Northern Ireland a real voice, give white Britons, the true Britons, a real voice, 2029 is going to be very kind to Reform UK. Reform is not going to win by betraying their principles and their voting base by appealing to London elitist bureaucrats or green Corbynite race communists or becoming colourblind. All Reform has to do is stick to the basics and stick to their principles and they will win. They needn't worry. And that was the controversial rise of Reform UK. If you enjoyed this video essay, give this video a thumbs up. Consider sharing it to a friend, especially a friend who is interested in British politics. And feel free to tell me your thoughts in the comments. Is there anything I can improve on? For the Britons watching this, did I get anything wrong? Oh, and another thing, we're going to smoke you in the ashes this summer. But unfortunately, I do have to concede that you guys are going to smoke us in the British and Irish Lions tour that's currently happening. If you would like to support my work, feel free to join my Patreon for as little as $5 a month, where you can get shoutouts at the beginning of my video as well as Discord benefits, and consider subscribing to my Substack for free and joining my free Discord server. All the links to that is in my link tree down in the description below. God bless you all for watching, and I truly hope I'll see you next time.